Okay, hello. Welcome to Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? I am streaming on the right day. Yes, it is Wednesday. Okay. So yeah, hope your day's going all right. Mine is kind of just getting started. I've had my coffee. We had incredible storms last night. Like it seems most of the world did, or at least most of the world that has people in it that I know. Yeah. The one night I tried to get in bed early and get some sleep, massive thunderstorm rolls in at 1:30 a.m. and our old neurotic dog did not like it. So there I sat for a good hour or so, but definitely have friends in Scotland and elsewhere that got hammered a lot worse. So oof, what a day. But today is going to be good. We're going to we're getting back on work on CoreLMS, the open source learning management system that I'm developing from scratch here on stream. We're going to work on custom what did I say? Yes, we're going to work on logging, basic .NET Core logging, which I've never really messed around with. Start adding a custom exception, just for better handling and tracking inside the application. And work on some more TDD, some more test-driven development, continuing work on the course service that we started last week. We're going to do it the right way, hopefully. And we'll talk about some of that when we get there. So, one thing I did want to go over, on the stream Friday, I worked on getting a basic Gatsby static site generator installation going. And used Netlify to host it. Did get it functioning finally, but didn't do a whole lot of customization. But I have since customized, color schemes and light editing and feature work to get this thing working like I want it to. So you can check out the result at fct.dev, and you can also use that to get in touch with me if you ever need to. So there's that. Just wanted to touch on that very quickly. But for today, like I said, going to be working on CoreLMS. So, yeah. Let's get started on that. Okay. So, where we left off last week, we started with our test. We got our first test written, and it was a cringeworthy experience, let's say, because I am very new to test-driven development, and thank goodness for the grumpy game dev who was in chat and was able to literally hold my hand through the entire process. The big difference from what I had done previously is I didn't even start with the interface. So when I started writing the test, everything went red. I mean, literally red, like wouldn't compile red. And that threw me for a big loop, trying to figure out where to start and go from there. But it clicked, or it started clicking anyway, when the grumpy game dev said, how do you know what your interface should be describing? How do you know what the contract should be? How do you know what your interface or your service should be doing? Well, your test tells you that. That's the point. So you start with a test at a very low level that describes what the application should be doing. Hello, Grumpy Game Dev, just talking about you. So you start with the test that describes what your application should be doing. Then you make the application do it. So that was the big kicker that I had to get situated in my head. I'm certainly not proficient yet, but I am starting to get my head around test-driven development, and I did buy the Bible, apparently, from everything I've seen anyway, Test-Driven Development by Example by Kent Beck, who is sort of the godfather of test-driven development. So let's be honest, I'm 8 pages in so far. But I do want to really get my head around how to do this the right way, because I think it's the right way. So yeah, so that's what we did last week. We started with the test, then we started the core service. We wrote the first interface method, or the first contract in the interface, and then we built the first service method. So that's where we left off. Now, before we continue today, there's some groundwork I want to go ahead and get dropped in, not necessarily in its final form, but things that we'll need as we continue forward to make sure that we're doing what we want to do, accomplishing what we want to accomplish. So the first of those things is logging. And this is going to sound even more absurd than never having done test-driven development, but I have never used proper logging in .NET. I'm used to the PHP, well, sort of the PHP, but definitely the JavaScript way of using logging, which is to console.log every 3 lines in your code to figure out where it's breaking. That's not really what we're after here. What I want here, and I've run into the need for this in production applications, and it's just purely from a lack of understanding on my part as I was architecting the system that I had another developer work on originally, and now I've taken over. Logging would prove very useful, particularly in production. In development, it's pretty straightforward. We'll get the exceptions, we'll see what's going on, the debugger will stop and tell us, hey, you've got a problem here. In production, not so much. Your user, if you're not careful, will get a very ugly exception page. Thankfully, .NET Core prevents that out of the box. Sort of. We do need to work on production exception handling down the road, but we're not in the UI yet, so we're not worried about it. But aside from getting or not getting the error page that has the details, it doesn't do any logging out of the box. But yeah, exactly. In production, the logging feed is the only way that your that your Joe can figure out the issue. Exactly. That's the problem. So without the logging, you're stuck either hoping that your user is savvy enough to copy and paste or screenshot the exception and send it to you, which they shouldn't be seeing to begin with. And in most cases, they're not savvy enough to do that. Or you have to try to replicate the problem. So we want to avoid that. Because trying to replicate situations can prove obviously very difficult. So we're going to start out of the box before we really get into any major functionality on CoreLMS with just making sure that we are bringing in logging and using it where appropriate. So that's the idea. We're going to start with that. And then I want to add a user-defined exception, which is really just a C# feature. Just to make it, and if you ever show a user a stack trace, you did it wrong. Exactly. And like I said, that's what .NET Core handles that very nicely out of the box. If development environment, show the exception page, which is really nice in .NET Core, at least in 3. I don't know about previous. Or if you're in production, it routes to a custom error action on your home controller by default. You can override all that, of course. And we can also, and this is one thing I am very excited about, we can use custom exception middleware in the request pipeline in .NET Core to handle all kinds of stuff, like grabbing authentication information, not the actual like password, but authentication status, those kinds of things. So we'll be exploring all of that down the road. For today, I want to get basic logging started and get our application level custom exception in so that we can deal with things the way they should be dealt with, to put it simply. Then, using those two things, we'll move on to the next service method. No, we'll move on to the next test and then service method. And one of those tests is going to be an edge case. At least one of those cases, one of those tests is going to be our first edge case. So catching expected, unexpected behavior. So in this case, what we're going to do is, last week we implemented getting every course in the database. This week we're going to be implementing catching or pulling a specific course by ID from the database, and then also handling the edge case of a non-existent course. If someone clicks a link to a course that's no longer active, etc., etc., how do we handle that? And to do that, we're going to be using exceptions and make sure that exceptions get thrown and all that stuff. So let's get going. So for logging in .NET Core, it's actually pretty much built in. There's not a whole lot we have to do, and this is using the Microsoft Logger. I do want to play with Serilog at some point, just because. For now, we're going to keep it extremely simple, because that's all we really need at the moment. And so we're just going to go with the basic Microsoft built-in logging provider. So, getting started on that, logging provider store logs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and you can see there, this is how you can wire directly into application insights on Azure. That's something we'll be doing at some point. Not that you have to host this application on Azure, and I do want to avoid that dependency. I will be using Azure, but you might not. So, okay, back to what we're doing. So the first step is going to be to do this part. We need to add a configure logging at the host builder level. It will only pass when logging is present. How to write a test that will only pass when logging is present? That's a good question. I do know that we can verify that our logger is being utilized in a test, obviously, because we can mock it just like anything else, and just make sure that, for instance, when our service catches an exception, it logs the exception, that kind of thing. But how to write a test that will only pass when logging is present? I'll have to come back to that. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna cheat and skip that for the moment. So okay, so in where our host builder is being created, we need to drop in this little snippet. So we'll come in. That's going to be in program. There's our create default builder, and we'll drop that in. And as you can see, we're adding console as a logging. I'm not sure it says source it in the right word. Logging sync. Where does the logging go? Yeah, okay, yeah. So, or at least verifies the logger is used, as you say. So, yeah, that's the main thing I'm worried about. Is we'll mock our logger and just make and we don't actually. I guess we don't have to actually mock it. We could just inject it. Although I'm not sure how you do that in XUnit. So we'll mock it and just make sure that our service is any of our business logic that should be utilizing logic or loggers is utilizing those loggers. So that's where we'll start, and we'll get there today. For now, yeah. So we are adding console logging, and that's going to, well, you can't see it right now. Actually, we'll also add debug, just so we can see it in both places. I think you can do it that way. Provider, there you go, it's right there. These are providers, so we can add console, we can add debug, we could configure, I wonder what's out of the box. Add, I think that's it. Oh, event log. You can actually log to the Windows event log, which I'm assuming would work on Mac or Linux if you're building on those. Custom event source, I think, is how that works. Yeah, and then add provider generically if you have custom providers. So yeah, for us, we're going to do console, which will be the Kestrel window that we'll see in a little bit, as well as our output here, and we can show. We'll find it. Okay, so that's first step. Back to here. That's really it as far as getting it working. It's like I said, it's built in. As far as I know, dependency injection will already be configured and ready to work at that point. We'll find out. And then, yeah, so this is the next step. So to create logs, you inject an iLogger of category name. And your category name is going to be either the model that you're working within, or for MVC, it could be the controller that you're working on, whatever it is. And this is just so it tags everything correctly in your log stream so you can identify what happened where. So that's going to be our first step. Ooh. Okay. So I was about to just open up my service and drop in my logger, which is the wrong way to do it. Actually, I'm not sure it is. Because now we're in the refactor part. So the point is, yeah, because we're not doing anything with the logging yet. So we're not adding functionality by just adding the logger necessarily. The test won't compile and you'll have to adjust. Oh, that's correct. Hey, there you go. That's it. That's what we want to see. We want to see a refactor and then our test fail, I think, and then fix what's causing the test to fail. So yeah, as soon as we add a new parameter in the constructor, our test is going to fail because it's not passing that parameter when we initialize the service. So yeah, perfect. Okay, so we need to add iLogger, and that's going to be, we'll start with our interface. No, we will not start with our interface because that's stupid. We're going to start with our constructor. So we're going to add iLogger, and it will be of type iCourse. No, it will be a type course service. All right. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Logger. Okay, and then so we need to fix that, which is going to need to bring in probably, assuming that one. Sure, let's go with that. Cool. Hey, started thinking through something correctly there. All right, cool. All right, so that's not fussing anymore, and now we need to capture our logger. I'm so glad they're doing this correctly, because like you can still see in the documentation, a lot of them have the underscore logger notation. That's not C#. I learned that. That the C# way is this dot, not underscore for class fields. Anyway, okay, so we have that. So now we have injected our logger, and right now there's nothing to really do with it. We don't have anything ready to do that. But just to show what's going on, we can run our test suite, which is one test, of course. And it failed. And well, because it's a compiler. We're not going to run from the last build, and our error is there is no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter db, which, okay, fine. It's passing in our appdb mock, our database context mock as the logger, which would also cause problems. But so what we need to do here is go ahead and get our test ready to go, or at least our test class ready to go. So we're going to need a new mock for our logger. We'll add that in. Nope, not logger, list. iLogger. And logger. Okay, we'll bring in whatever this, there we go, extensions.logging. We will initialize it. New mock of iLogger. Perfect. And we will pass in this .logger to our core service. Why is it not liking? Oh, dot object. iLogger core service. Ooh, good point. Good catch. Okay. I think, what is it doing? Syntax error. Oh. And Now everything should stop fussing. Yay! Okay. Thank you. Good catch. That would have taken me a second. Okay. So our compile should work now. And our test should pass, which is fine as far as I'm concerned. Let's run it just to make sure. But this method, there's not really an exception case or a logging case that I can think of. One thing I'm not confident on yet is how often and where to use proper logging. Obviously, if we catch exceptions, we want to log those. Otherwise, I can't think of a good reason to log anything off the top of my head. And I'm sure I will. I'll think of scenarios that make sense. But this is one example. This is an exceptionally simple. That's why they're levels. Yeah. During development, I could see certainly using it just to kind of trace actions as they move in. And yeah, exactly. The logger has trace information, debug, warn, error, critical, etc. Like you can do all of that stuff with it. And like I said, I'm sure I will, as I'm now incorporating this, I'll think of areas where, as this project is being developed, where it makes a lot of sense to use it. And I do like how configuring your logger works in .NET Core. So in development, we can capture absolutely everything, and then in production, only log anything warning or above, that kind of thing. So I like that. But like I said, this is one case where I don't see a reason, for instance, okay, our test is passing, good, because we're not doing anything with the logging, so there's nothing to verify there. And that's a case where, what would I log here, other than that it happened? Hey, Freon, how you doing, my friend? It's going all right. Got some actual sleep after the thunderstorms last night. Yes, exactly. You may log that you called it just as a practice. I need to look more into the theory and best practices on logging. For my purposes, I have no desire to log that I called this. Because it's a very simple, straightforward, exactly, getter of a list. There's no point in logging that. I know it's happening. I mean, okay, so that's interesting. A create or a delete, yes. That's a good. I can see that too, because then you can also trace back to see if you have some kind of. This is probably bad form anyway. Well, no, I guess it makes sense. So if you're going through creating a brand new whole course, Freon, you good person, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for the subscription. In a larger create scenario, so say I'm adding a whole course with a brand new author, etc., etc. Hey, you did get a first badge. That's awesome. Fantastic. Did I make you a mod here? I guess I did. I don't remember making you a moderator. Hey, cool. You got a sword. That's awesome. And you can mod drunk all day long. You don't have to switch to your drinking account if you don't feel like it. Not that I'll ever be streaming late enough for you to be drunk anyway. But anyway. So yes, going back to that creates, deletes, etc. That makes a lot of sense too. Adding new entities, removing entities from the system, especially in a chain scenario where we're adding a course to the database, we're adding an author to the database, we're adding multiple objects with business logic interwoven and all that stuff. I can definitely see that being useful. So if you have a problem, you can trace where the problem actually happened and how far down the list, how far into the chain you got. That makes sense. In any case, for today, I'm definitely not going to log getting a list of courses, especially a simple get every course in the database call. But we do have our logger set up. Our test is passing, so we're good. Okay, so that's that. So we have logging theoretically working, and we'll find out soon. Next thing is going to be, I want to have a custom exception that we use for expected exception cases. So I'm trying to transition to using exceptions more instead of returning nulls. Why not? It's people have fussed at me in the past. I don't mind returning null. I don't mind having to handle it, because that's the thing. You have to handle an error condition or an exception condition regardless. So to me, and I think, okay, I think the argument is it's more clear to other developers. Anybody else that will be working on your package, it's clear what the expected behavior is. Returning null is not clear necessarily. It should be clear in how you handle it after the fact, but what if it's new functionality and the programmer is not expecting to receive a null back? Well, if you throw an exception, he's going to see it, and he'll understand exactly what's going on and why, and he'll be able to handle it and deal with it. Along those lines, I want to have a custom exception so we can delineate expected exception behavior, like not finding a course in the database when somebody tries to look it up because they typoed the course ID, from unexpected exception behavior that needs to be handled separately and logged and run down as bugs. So let's get our custom exception added. It's very straightforward as far as I can tell. We're gonna go with like little help tips. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it just makes the whole point of everything I'm trying to do now is just making the system self-descriptive, self-explanatory, so that everything behaves as it's expected to behave, and it demonstrably behaves the way it's expected to behave, I guess. Every time I use a big word like that, I'm thinking about this personality profile I just took that basically said, you're a dumbass who uses big words for no reason. Anyway. Thanks, Luna. Anyway. Okay. So, create user-found exceptions. This is it. This is pretty much the whole thing. We need to add this class in somewhere, or a class very much like this. So, we're going to come back to our code. I'm going to stick this... Thinking of the clean code architecture and where things should fit. I'm still kind of arguing with myself about whether this should be at the application level or at the core, or layer rather, or at the actual core layer. I think, to me, this is a core thing. This is exception behavior that, regardless of the interface, regardless of where it's being done, whether it's inside services or whatever, this is exception behavior that I want to be able to utilize anywhere in the system. And it's, to me, it is core to the system. So I'm going to add an exceptions folder. And for now, I have also seen other developers that go deep with this. So they'll have custom exceptions for every service. So our course service, we could have a course service exception handler, or exception class, to specifically describe exception behavior in the course service, as opposed to the author service, as opposed to the order service, as opposed to etc., etc. I'm not sure I want to go that far with this system just yet. I may regret that later, but it's something I think we'll also be able to not easily change. It'll be tedious if we decide to change that later, but I'm just not that worried about it. So for now, I'm going to add my exception here. So let's do a new class, and this will be application exception. Will be super. Okay. My brain short-circuited. I think I spelled that right. Exception. Yes. Okay. And it's going to extend the base exception class. That's fine. And I wish it had the little squiggly that would let us just scaffold out the missing constructors, but it does not. So we'll come back here, and I'm going to grab this code, and drop that in. And this will be, and you can kind of see here, like even the Microsoft Docs look like it's going to a much deeper level than just generic application exception. But I'm still going to do it this way. And so clearly this is where we could implement custom behavior if we needed to. I don't know enough to know whether I need to at this point, so I'm not going to. Really, I just want to be able to catch application exceptions versus base exceptions. That's my main goal. So I think I'm happy with how this looks so far. So we'll leave that like it is. And so now we have our logging and we have our custom application exception. And I'm just going to jump right back into real code and start adding our next test and then our next functionality. Because I think we should be pretty well ready to do that. But let's see. Okay. So we don't start here. Let's close some of this stuff up because we don't need all of that. Okay, so we do need to come into test. So actually, the other thing I wanted to do here, just because I want to use Dynamics. I added the package last week, but did not use it. So instead of having to manually create this test data, we can use Dynamics Object Filler to do that for us. So let me skip over and we'll do that. Go ahead and fix that in our test, and then we can use that going forward. So Dynamics Object Filler example. Let's see. That is, hate my mouse sometimes. Getting started, object filler. There we go. Okay, so we have Dynamics Object Filler, and you can see just right here how it works. So we have this class. This could be an entity class. This is what we'll have, and we can use Dynamics Object Filler to just literally create that, or to instantiate a new person and fill it with random data, completely randomized data. And we can control the parameters of that randomized data, and we will at some point in some scenarios. But by and large, it's very smart. It'll fill a string with a random string. It'll fill an integer with a random integer. It'll fill a date time with a random date time. That's one area where we may want to play around with or specify things in the future, because we don't necessarily want to have a 150-year-old person in our data in our test. But so that's the basics of how that works. I need to find how to fill a list, and I might be able to just figure it out. Let's see if we can piece it together. Okay. Actually, I think it's going to be exceptionally straightforward. So what we're going to do here, I'll comment that out, and I'm going to have a new filler. There we go. And it will be of type list of course. Course list filler. Equals new filler list course. I think that's all. Is that what we needed? Yep. And now we can say list of course database courses equals course list filler.create. I think that's all we need. I'm going to test that. Hey, now, that's a little too close to home here in the States. Just kidding. Okay, so let's test this and make sure it actually is doing exactly what we want it to. So I'll run this test. We should capture it. Okay, so after we run that, we should be able to look at database. Oh, okay, it did work. So it filled it with a random number as well. There's our first course, and it actually fills every bit of the data, which is good. That's one thing I didn't do correctly last time. I only filled the first couple of fields. Holy crap. Definitely may want to specify. I mean, it worked. I can't really fuss about that, but it may be a little less performant than we like. Because we have one course, yeah, one course with 17 lessons, and this course only has 3 authors. There was one of the courses that had 19 authors. So yeah, it does work, and that's awesome. But that's a little intense. And I would hate for it to tremendously, especially as we start layering more and more tests. We don't want to be taking 6 seconds to run our test suite because we're filling 4,000 random objects. Okay, let's figure out how to prevent that. Okay, getting started. We don't care about VB. Dynamics object filler limit list number. Object filler list number of items. There we go. Yeah, let's see what that says. I know I'm 100% positive you can do this. That might be what we want right here. Well, okay, it's manually doing it. I don't want to do that. Objectfiller.net. Okay, so this is how you can start doing some of the customization. You can see you do a setup and then on property, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's just look at the actual documentation. Setup for types, subtypes, properties, that's fine. Oh, and that's another thing you can do too. It has built-in functionality, so like for name fields, if you want it to be readable, you can do it that way. So if for running a test suite, I don't care. I'm never going to look at the actual data the tests spit out unless there's a problem. But even then, I don't care if it uses real names. But if you need to seed a database or something, I don't know, you could use it to do the same thing. There we go. Handle IEnumerable properties. I think that's going to be what we're after. Create instance of address. Unenumerable. I don't care about all this mess. We're explicit setup. Gotta be missing something here. List, senseless list. Okay, it didn't. Okay, let's play with it. So what we need to do is do setup and then on type. Okay, so there's our filler. Course list filler dot. Where's my? Oh. Dot. Setup. Yeah. Okay, so dot on property. E dot. What? What am I missing? Brain's not working yet. Okay. property. Interface properties. We don't want on type, I don't think. P. No, that is right. Okay, so P dot lessons. Why is that not showing up? Course lesson. Oh, because I'm doing a list of courses. Alright, I'm gonna quit dicking around with this. I will fix this later. It works for now, it's just not performant. I'm gonna add a to-do and we'll come back and limit that later. Limit number of generated subtypes. Okay, fine. We're using Dynamics Object Filler now to give us correct random data. That's what I was after there. Now I want to actually move on and do something new. Okay, so we're gonna start with Japanese calendar, apparently. Fact, public async task, and this will be get course async, not get courses, because we're going to do a single course now. That's going to be the next method we add, and it should return expected course. Okay, cool. And as always, we are going to lose. I lost a comment in there somewhere. Okay, anyway. So we're going to do given or arrange. We're going to do when or act, and then or assert. Okay. Starting with our asserts, because I like that. I want to... Good Lord, quit pressing the wrong buttons. One, we want to make sure that the actual course equals the expected course. And we want to make sure DB was hit once. And this is where I could go back and change the other course. I want to make sure that my logger was not hit. Nothing should be logged in a nominal pullback from the database case. So that's fine. So we're going to say, we'll start with our act, and that's going to be course, actual course, equals await subject, which is our course service, dot get course async and okay, I'll fix this in a second. And I'm really struggling to deal with these red squigglies. Grumpy game dev, but I'm gonna persevere. Okay, so the ID that we want to pull back is going to be the randomly generated ID from Dynamics Object Filter. No, Dynamics Object Filler. So what I'll need to do is say database course.id when I actually get to this point. Okay, so that's fine. And down here, actual course dot should be equivalent to, and it will be database course. Okay, that's our first assertion. Then we will check app.db context, verify db.select course by ID async with database course.id. And I'll get into a better flow here. It would have made more sense and be a lot prettier if I had started with the actual given and just gone ahead and created my mock and created my database course and etc. I'll figure out the flow that makes the most sense to me, that doesn't break my brain, that also doesn't violate principles of TDD. So, So we're going to verify that select course by ID async was called with the database course ID parameter. And we're going to verify that it was called times once. Okay. That looks right to me. We're also going to verify that no other calls were made. No other calls. And we're going to verify that our logger mock, I didn't specify. Goodness. Logger mock. Just cleaning up naming so that we're, again, clear, understandable. This is what's happening and why. Logger.mock, verify no other calls. So no call should be made to the logger in this method. Now let's go ahead and fix our given so that all this quits bitching at me. Okay, so to arrange, we're going to create a filler for type course. That's probably the better way to handle it up here, actually, now that I think about it. Rather than having it literally return a list of courses, just set the filler up to do a course and then call the create as many times as we want. I still think there should be a way to limit the number of child objects that it creates without having to create loops for each one of those, or at least custom handlers. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Okay, filler course filler equals new filler course. Done. Okay, so now our course database course is going to be course filler dot create. I don't have this many typos when I'm not on stream, or maybe I do and I just don't pay attention. I feel like I'm a better typist than that, but in any case, we have our course, our database course. So now we need to set up our database mock to return that. Context mock.setup for db, and this will be db.select course by ID async. With database course.id. Okay. And we'll have it returns async database course. Okay. Oh, I did confirm. Actually, you just typed just as poorly off stream. Yes, I do. That's probably true. That's definitely true. And by the way, I did where you had showed me originally, where you could just pass in oh, actually. Yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. Where we were having returns async send back new list and initializing it by just passing in the actual course. That does work, obviously, and it does create a new copy, not pass back a reference to the original data. So that was perfect, and much cleaner. Okay, so returns async database course. I think I'm okay with this for now, because again, now I'm again concerned about whether all of this is just going to end up passing back the same original course object or course instance, so that actual course is the literal same as database course. We'll go with it for now, because the main thing we want to make well, no shit. Okay, I know how we'll test that. We'll test whether this is doing what it's supposed to in a second. For now, we have mocked our appdb context method, so that should be correct. We have our act set up, which is subject.getCourseAsync, which is not implemented yet. That's why it's red. That's good. And our assertions, why is that? Oh, just messed that up. That times once. Okay. Okay, so our assertions should be good now. Okay, so we have red. It will not compile. I'm not going to press the button. But now we are ready to... We have described our expected behavior, so let's go add our method. So this will be a task course get course async, and we're expecting an integer ID. Okay, that's fine. Here's our reference that's already ready. Now this is fussing because we haven't implemented the method. Okay. So now our compile errors should go away. It did. So let's run the test. Watch it fail. God, I hope it fails. If it doesn't, I don't know what the hell's going on. Oh, Jesus. Whew, okay. That scared me because it looked like it actually passed because I wasn't looking at the right thing. Get course async. System not implemented exception. Perfect. That's what we're after. We have red. Now let's implement. Okay. So the implementation is basically exactly as straightforward as... I'm not going to do that. It's almost exactly as straightforward as get courses. So when we're just getting the entire list of courses in the database. So what we're going to do, let's say var course equals awake db get select course by id async, and we're going to pass in id. Okay, and then we're going to what? Oh, okay. In the ideal case, that's all we're going to do. We're just going to pass the course back. Okay. We should be able to run our test now. And it should go green. It did. Yay. Red, green. Okay. So we have implemented our method. We have the nominal case handled. Before I move on to the edge case, I want to test my theory on, or not my theory, test my question on whether we're just passing the same object around by reference so that our test will actually not fail even when it should. Okay. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manipulate the data that comes in, which obviously should never happen. And our test should fail if I do this, because in a real world scenario, it should fail because we're testing to make sure that what's in the database is not being manipulated in an unexpected way by the service. So if I change this, I'm just going to make it that. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Probably doesn't like that. There we go. Okay. Big ass integer. Actually, you know what? Because in my freaking luck, the randomly generated ID will be that number and my point won't be proven. So I'm going to change the name of the course, and we'll say test name should definitely not be this. It's theoretically possible that object filler could generate that randomly. I think it's very unlikely. So I've manipulated the data. I'm going to pass it back. If setting up our mock this way is just passing the reference around, then our test will still pass, because it's just literally, this is an exact, like, it's pointing to the same reference in memory. If it's not, if we actually are getting a new clean object back, then our test will fail because actual will not be equivalent to database course. So let's run it. Please fail. I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to pass, is my prediction. Yep, it passed. Okay, so we cannot do it this way. So how do we fix it? What I need to do is I need to pass, okay, it needs to be a clone of database course, not the actual original object. I wonder, there's not a clone method, I know that. I guess we could do this serialize, deserialize trick. Siri, piss off. Serialize. Heifer. Alright. So yes, we have a false positive because when I changed it in the service, it literally changed it in the original object. So I need to... All I can think of right now is Jace. I gotta look it up. I'm gonna use the stupid trick, unless you've got another trick off the top of your head, Grumpy Game Dev, to basically clone the object. I'm not even sure serialize is gonna work because it's deep self-referential. How do we do this? How do we handle this? Let's Google. I'm not shallow clone might work. Maybe, at least in this very basic case. But shallow clone is not going to clone all of the objects, all the child objects. And deep clone. I do not want to do that. Memberwise clone. Let's try that. Memberwise clone. Why is that not there? That's something we can bring in. Okay, let's see. Why is that in the system namespace? It should be. Shallow copy. I don't want to do all that crap. That's ridiculous. If I was using data that I had created, like known data, then I could... Ooh! I think I know how to do it. Nope, I don't. Shit. Sorry. Thought I knew how to do it for a second. Okay, so if I was creating known data, if I was just saying this is the ID, this is the name, this is the description, it's fine. I can create the same object twice by literally newing it up twice the same way, and it would be fine. And then I could pass database and have expected and etc. Actually, I wonder, I bet you object filler has clone. Object filler clone. Oh. Copy. Really? This is... absurd. I need to be able to get an exact copy of what object filler previously gave me, but obviously since it's randomized, that's a problem. How do we clone an object simply? See if the documentation has anything. I don't see anything that's going to help us here. What I need to be able to do is do course expected course. Equals database, no, course filler. Ooh, use an existing instance, use the filler fill method. Fills your object. Fill? What? That makes sense. Okay, fill is going to return the filled instance of dictionary type T. Database? Okay, so first of all, okay. Create. This is going to be database course. Expected course. I'm not sure what this is going to do. Maybe we're just playing now. We'll have some fun. Okay. And now down here we can say expected course, which is more correct. I don't know what this is going to do. We'll see. Yeah, I think we're getting there in any case. I think it's going to... Hopefully, the idea, I'm hoping it will fill a new object from the old object. Database course... Okay. Course image URL is hater. Oh, randomizer, you're so silly. Okay, so it did fill with the same data. That's good. Now the question is whether it actually returned a new instance instead of a reference. Well, let's run the test, the rest of the test. And it still passed. Where did it pull that course name from? Literally random. It's just random characters. So, yeah. Just happened to be a word this time. That hurts my feelings. Okay, make sure I did this right. Fills your object instance, call this after you finish. It returns the filled instance of dictionary type T. And this is going to drive me absolutely insane. Yeah. It should 100% be be handling this correctly. The stupid thing is that in the actual application, everything works fine. Ish. If it was a real database context that I was hitting, it would be a new instance of the object. We wouldn't be telling it this is the object to pass back. It would go get that object. It's because we're mocking it. There's got to be a solution for this. What the hell is the solution? Okay. What am I trying to say? Okay, what we want to know is in the mock library, look above, got it, auto. Yeah. I thought about AutoMapper. I haven't used AutoMapper. But I think you might be right. I think that might be the simplest solution. So yeah, let's do that. I want to play with AutoMapper anyway, because I might be using it down the road for DTOs anyway. So yeah, cool. All right, so AutoMapper C#. Let's get it. Oh, come on, quit clicking things. Jesus. All right, AutoMapper C#. Getting started. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's probably the best way to do this. Okay, so we have a source and destination type, that's fine. So I'm gonna need to bring in AutoMapper to my test project. Okay, so let's manage NuGet packages. And we'll browse for AutoMapper. It seems just truly, and it's the same, it's not just a C# thing, it's the same thing in JavaScript. It's I don't know how we haven't solved deep cloning yet in a language level solution. Like, it seems like such a ubiquitous problem that needs to be solved. I don't know. Whatever. Alright, so we have AutoMapper. And you go away. You go away. Okay, so back to our tutorial, getting started, config, new mapper configuration, config, create map, order to order. I guess we can just use, I mean, obviously, if we want to go from one object type to a different object type, we would do it that way. I think we can just probably use the same object. Anyway, okay, sorry. Trailed off there. Okay, so let's go back to our test. Let's arrange. So we're going to have config. It's going to be a new mapper configuration. I'm assuming we'll need to bring in, yep, AutoMapper. This is going to be between course. It might not let me do this, actually. It's the same. It's not fussing yet. That's good. Okay. Just keep things together. All right, so do that. And actually, I can make that one line. So mapper equals new mapper. Yep. And instead of having, we'll keep it like that. So var mapper. Now we're gonna have our course database course. Get rid of that. Equals mapper.map from course expected course. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, this should freaking fail, or I'm going to throw something. It should fail for the correct reason, let's say. You better fail. Yes, it failed. Expected member name to be Fasadehuaga but test name should definitely not be this. Has a length of 33 and difference near. There we go. Now we know our test is doing what it's supposed to. Okay, so let's come back in here and fix this because it should not be doing that. Let's run our test again, make sure it goes green, and we'll be good. Congrats on failure. Yes. Yeah, I have always wanted to use AutoMapper, and when I first started in .NET, and here was the problem. I had never written a proper .NET project and decided to write multiple production big .NET systems, and they are, yeah, congrats on expected failure. Yep. They're still running and they work, but they're ugly, and I'm going through the nightmare of having to fix a lot of that shit now. So AutoMapper was one of those things that it was just one more thing on top of the 1,000 things that I was trying to learn at one time that I just didn't pick up. So yay, glad we get to play with that. And the way it was illustrated was how it should actually properly be used, which is, at least in this application, the way I envision using it, which is to map a DTO or data transfer object to an entity. So in doing things, if I use that model in my actual application, in the user interface, in the MVC project, I'll pass around DTOs that I can use to protect data, and then I can safely use AutoMapper to only map over the fields that should be mapped. So cool, got to play with AutoMapper. Nice. All right. I bet there's a generic way we could use this too, but I'm not gonna fool with that because I'm gonna end up having to recreate. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna end up using that a lot. So let's move all that shit up here. Yeah, let's do this dot. No, we can get rid of this now. Make that a one-liner, and we'll make this dot map. Come on, equals new mapper. I think it can be read-only. Nope. What is that going to be? Just mapper. Mapper. Okay, so there's that. And now our service uses this dot mapper dot map. Okay, because we're going to be using course mapping a lot, I think. Okay. They undoubtedly have more code than they need. You put the mapper config in a function that gets called when the assembly initializes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm happy with this so far. Okay, so we have our first nominal test and method implementation working. Perfect. Now we definitely need to handle an edge case. What if somebody passes in an ID that does not exist in the database? We don't handle that right now. It's going to crash. No, it's not going to crash. It's going to pass back a null, which our application may or may not know what to do with. What we want it to do is pass back... no, not pass back. It should throw an application exception, which we just created earlier, and log that scenario, because that is an unexpected case. Should throw application exception when invalid ID, when ID is invalid. Okay, perfect. I don't know why it makes me happy to write 80 character method names. It does. It just does. Oh, I'm just weird. Another one of those personality type things. I just like writing. So yeah. Okay. Given. Okay. When act, then assert. Okay, let's do this the right way around this time. It's way better in F# because I can put spaces in the function name. Oh, that's what? You can have spaces in the function name? I saw a tweet yesterday about somebody saying, hey, if you're a C# developer, you should check out F#. And I really do want to at least get some passing familiarity with functional programming. Because I can definitely understand, I can at least grasp the power that's available in it. The power in being purely functional. I have to, yeah, I definitely want to check F# out and see what it's all about. But right now, I am plenty. I don't even have time to watch streamers that I want to watch these days. Got too much to do right now. That's okay. So, given we're gonna do basically the same setup. So we'll do all of this, I think. Okay. How do we mock this? What we need to do is end up passing in yeah, we'll start with this because we do want there to be valid data in the database, theoretically. GitLab, Grumpy Game Dev. See what this is. Vessel single statistics. Okay, what am I looking at? Okay, I will let you find out. Okay, so for this test, we need to set it up so that if they had asked for the correct ID, it would work. Actually, okay, I think I'm getting unit test in F#. Oh, so you just double backtick it. To float, it returns half pi when given 90 degrees. That's cool. And that is definitely more concise. Very cool. That's awesome. Man, I want to build a game. God, I'm itching to build a game. I haven't worked on a game project in 10 years more. I really want to build one. Okay. Okay, I'm thinking through how to properly arrange this test. What I want the database to do... I know what it is. Okay. So what we're going to do is... We don't need the filler, actually. I'm pretty sure. No, we don't. Okay, so our invalid ID, and we'll just set it up so it's constant, is going to be 100. We don't have a course in the database with an ID of 100. We're not going to. Here we go. Unit test, no shirts, and likely somewhat approachable. Oh, you mean when I said like it's concise? Yeah, very approachable. That was very, very straightforward. I really like that. I'm so used to the C-style syntax now that it hurts my brain to look at simpler language, or simpler syntax. Because like I also want to pick up Python because I want to do light. Brain just blanked. Data science. Good God. I want to do some light data science type work, and I'm positive you can do that in F# or really any language, but Python just kind of seems to be the flavor of the decade on data science. So, but looking at Python code, and is F#, I can't think of the word for it. It's space sensitive, like you. F# is a data science language for .NET. Huh. Well, that makes more sense then. I should probably stick with F#. Okay, so I'm going to be learning F#. Is F#, it looked like it might be. Is it kind of the space sensitive, so instead of brackets you use 2 spaces or 4 spaces or whatever to indicate blocks? Or is that optional, or how does that... It doesn't matter. I'll learn it, but... Okay. Invalid ID is going to be 100, just so we know what our invalid ID is going to be. We're going to set up our mock that when we pass in the invalid ID, what we're going to get back from the database, which is correct behavior from the database, needs indentation. It is tab sensitive. Okay, I can live with that. Needs indentation to be in scope. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, I may pick up F# then. Just so I'm still kind of in the .NET family and not trying to mesh Python analysis application with .NET data sources. Anyway, returns. Why is that not working? Doesn't like that. Oh, I guess, well, no, it needs to be async because it's an async call. What? Why didn't it like that? Oh, no, that's, okay, why? In the asynchronous method. Call is ambiguous between returns async, blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. Maybe I just don't need the async on it? No, I do. Cast. Cast what? Oh. Maybe this will work. Nope. But okay, that at least behaves. All right, cool. I think that's what we're after. So that's expected behavior from the DB context. If you do first or default, what did I do in here? Oh, okay. I forgot we had a repository like. I forgot I had written a repository method to select the course as opposed to directly hitting the DB set and using first or default link stuff to. Anyway, the point was first or default or find is going to return either the object or null, which is expected behavior from the database. It is not the expected behavior in our application out of our business logic. Okay. I think I need to also mock. Do I need to mock the. We'll come back to the logger because I want to get the basic exception working and then we'll refactor. Yeah. So when we await okay, now I'm back to trying to remember how asynchronous works. So I need to do, let's see this, for result, actual result. We don't need to await, right? Because we actually want to get the task back so that we can verify that an exception was thrown, I think. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, brain is definitely frying here. Get course async. Yeah, no problem, man. Get course async invalid ID. So that's what we're doing. And then what we want to assert is that the service throws the error. Okay, what I'm going to do is check. I'm going to cheat again. Check how the guy, I really like how this guy's building their system. And this is where I've taken a lot of my early understanding of tests. This is where I got a lot of that. So let's see, services, look at our student service test, exceptions, retrieve. Okay. That's what it is. Retrieve student by ID task. Okay. I think we could actually, it's cleaner, it's more descriptive this way. But I think instead of doing it that way, we could just have the one line that says await assert.throws async and then pass in the... Never mind. We're gonna do it this way. Okay, so I was on the right track. So we have, this is going to be our subject task, and that's going to get us the actual asynchronous task back. Now we can assert throws async. We need to await it. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see. Ooh, don't click wrong buttons. There we go. All right, going back to here. So he mocks up. Okay, I don't think I need to do all this because I'm not doing any kind of truly custom work on the exception. So let's just start here. So we should be able to say throws async, and it'll be application exception, which is our custom exception. And then this is what we need to do. Okay, so then we do this, and we pass in, this is the function that we're actually, the anonymous function that we're actually executing. Subject task as task. What? What? Oh, it's a value test. That's okay. Subject. What? Is that what we need? That doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem like enough. And we will have very similar stuff here to start with. Okay. Let's run that test. The test will fail because we're not throwing an exception. And we got build errors. Okay. I just messed something. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, run the test again. Test will fail because we're not throwing an exception yet, which is what we want to see. Okay, good. Assert that throws failure expected type of no exception was thrown. Exactly, that's what we want. So now in our course service, we can fix this. If course, then we're going to throw a new application exception with a message course. Ooh. do this. Course ID not found. And do I need to? I don't think I need to do anything else. That's all I need. That should fix it. That should do the thing. Okay. Let's run our test again. And I think we should pass. And we did. Fantastic. Okay, so we have our first edge case handled. Mostly. We'll come back to it. We're going to keep working on it. So we have now thrown the expected exception. So again, we're back to that expected failure scenario. Awesome. And hello to all the folks joining us, whoever you are. Appreciate you watching. Say hi in chat. What I'm working on today is fleshing out CoreLMS, the open source learning management system that I've been working on for a few weeks now, and we'll be continuing to work on for months and months and years and years. But today, so far, we have added logging, which we're about to, into the pipeline, which we're about to actually make use of. We've added a custom application exception so that we can differentiate expected failure behavior from unexpected failure behavior. And we have, welcome back, Grump Game Dev. We have added two new tests, two new TDD tests, and the expected behaviors that make those tests pass. So make those tests pass. Fantastic. So the first thing we did was we added the get course method to our service. Very straightforward. We figured out how to use AutoMapper to make the test actually work like it's supposed to. And now we've handled our first edge case, which is when an ID that does not exist in the database is when someone tries to pull back a course that does not exist in the database. In that case, it should throw an application exception, not return a null. So we verified that that's working like it's supposed to. Fantastic. Now we need to make sure we actually need to do some logging, because just as an example case, I want to make sure our logging is doing what it's supposed to. I want to make sure that it does. So we need to do some more mocking. Do we need to mock? Okay, let's look back at how they handle mock or logging over in my example. They don't really do. Okay, so they're not actually logging anything on a retrieval error. But I want to, just so I can see if logging is working. Let's find one where they do. Oh, no, wait, they did. I'm sorry. They did. I was looking at the wrong thing. Retrieve on... yeah, exception retrieve. Okay, so there's nothing we have to mock. But they do verify on the logging broker that log critical with the exception. Oh, that's why they did this. Okay. Okay, so I see what we can do now. All right, so what we need to do now is change our assertions. So our assertion is going to say, not change, add an assertion. We are going to do something. All right, logger mock dot verify logger dot log. So what we're going to do is we're going to log an error. This is not a critical situation, but it is an error. So we're going to verify that log error with course. Let me figure out how I worded the exception. That's fine. Course with ID is not found. Okay. So our log message is going to look exactly the same. We're going to pass in invalid ID not found. We want to make sure that our logger is logging an error with that message, and that it does it times dot once. Once. Okay, and then we want to make sure that no other logger calls were made. Okay, so we've added that to our test. We run the test. We watch the test fail. It does, because unsupported expression. What? I don't know what that means. Okay, let's see what it's saying. Unsupported expression. What? Extension methods. Logger extensions.log error may not be used in setup verification expressions. What? Maybe, hang on. I may have messed up. That doesn't make sense. That shouldn't be the issue. Okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? Absolutely should work fine, as far as I'm concerned. I wonder if I brought the wrong... That wasn't the same iLogger or service. It's gotta be that. Okay, so that's right. What was that? Unsupported expression. Maybe it's just because I used string interpolation here? Let's try that, just to be sure we're not missing something really stupid. I'm not confident that's going to fix the problem, but we'll see. No. Okay, extension methods. Let's Google this and see what the hell's going on. Turns out log information log are all extension methods. After a quick Google, okay. Why the iLogger interface? So solution one, there's a method on the iLogger interface where you can verify against iLogger.log. Ultimately, all the extension methods call that log method. Okay, we can do it that way. Oh, that's the step I missed. Basically writing our own implementation and injecting it. Ooh, I don't want to go through all that. All right. Let's get this thing. I am going to work on cleaning that up at some point. For now... Okay. Okay, so I see what our problem is. Basically, we want our own implementation of iLogger. I think. That doesn't make sense. Log level, string message, args. Okay, let's try that. Log level dot error message. Will it let me do that? I think it will. Okay, I think this will get us, because that's what we're going to end up doing, is just ultimately breaking down to logging an error with a message. Okay, let's see if that fails for the wrong reason now. No, fails for the right reason now. Not supported, extension. Come on! Extension message. That doesn't make sense whatsoever. Okay. Unit testing iLogger and suggest creating an adapter for the default iLogger. This... I'm going to Uber cheat, maybe. And just... Okay, so I think I could... Because what was it? I think it's log information that does exist. And it's not an extension method. Nope, that one is extension method. Very small and neat. If you want to make a logger, you only need to implement 3 methods. Why would we want to force someone? I mean, I get that argument. They keep the required implementation very small. How do we want to do this? See if there's another. How do you mock? There we go. Let's see if there's a simpler answer. Mock. Okay, that's one solution. There's our solution. Yeah, this is apparently a very well documented problem with unit testing. Stop trying to mock the iLogger methods. Well, piss off. Why? I want to mock them. It's not designed to be mocked. Okay, why test calling a log method? Because I want to make sure it logs, dick. Testing the wrong thing. Even if we could test the iLogger we still shouldn't do it. Let me show an example. Okay, that's fine. It might look reasonable to try to mock the log information of the iLogger to verify if the business process logs registration attempts. We should be testing the business intent. By testing the iLogger call, we are testing the implementation. It makes for fragile test. I mean, clearly, that makes sense. So is it actually important that I test for proper logging? Especially when I don't even know when I want to actually log yet. I'm going to say nah. But I am going to add the logging to the service. I'm just not going to verify it. So let's get rid of those. Actually, I guess I could... also verify that it's throwing the correct exception. It is any for the... Yeah. I'm just going to get logging out of here, because logging is not... It's not part of... It's kind of outside. It's sort of fourth wall-y to me. Like it's useful for debugging and stuff. But yeah, exactly. Logging is not business logic. There's no reason to test logging. All right, so maybe he's not a dick. So we'll just get rid of all the logging checking because it's not important anymore. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Oh, wait a minute. No, I still need to do that. I wonder... No, I can't do that. I can only mock return. Okay, that's fine. So we do still have... Do I have to... I guess I could just pass a real logger, but I don't know how to do that. I'm passing the mock and calling it good. So we will still set up the logger mock because we have to, because core service expects it. We have to pass in a logger of some kind. It'd be cool if I could pass in the real logger so I could actually see it logged to the console or whatever, but not that big a deal. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure it's all out of here. Let's run our test. It should now pass because we're not expecting it to do anything that it's not already doing. It is going to throw the exception. All right, there's that. So that works. I do, though, want... Do I care about logging that? Yeah, I do. This.logger.log as warning. And we're going to do... Actually, this is where we can have more fun. Let's do course ID. We'll use, was it semantic logging? I think it's the word. More advanced logging. And that will be ID. How do we pass the exception? Actually, wait a minute, hang on. Oh, helps if you do that before you throw. But now I'm thinking, is this the right place to do the logging? Or should the logging be done wherever I'm calling the service? Because I may want to handle it, I may want to log it in some places, or just handle it as expected behavior in others. Do I always want to log anytime we get this exception? I just want to see a log, damn it. Okay. I'm inclined to think that this should be more of... because... yeah. Sometimes this is going to be expected behavior, so there's no point logging a warning for that because we expected it to happen. Why would we want to catch that in a log? We knew it was going to happen in that case, so it's fine. In the cases where we don't want it to happen, that's where we'll want to catch this exception. And then we can log it as a warning with the exception data so that we can then go fix that there. Yeah, so exactly. That's kind of what I think arrived at. So I'm going to leave that just like it is. And I'm not going to bother with logging. Which means I could also... yeah, I'll go ahead and leave the logger in here, because as we start to flesh out the course service, there may be scenarios where we do want to log something. And exactly, yeah, that's it. So I'll catch it and deal with it correctly then. Okay. All right, so the last thing I want to do before I shut down for the day is I also in my test want to verify that the correct message was thrown. And now I've got to figure out how to do that. So how do we do that? Do we do that? Can we do that? Answer is probably yes. Or maybe you won't ever need the logger in the business layer. Ideally, no, we wouldn't ever need it because we'll have tests that show that we've handled everything gracefully as it was expected to be handled. In which case we would not need to be logging. We should be logging it in the UI layer or API layer or whatever it is that's, I guess that is the UI layer. We should be handling it. I always get higher and lower backwards. We should be handling it at the UI end and logging it there, not in the business logic. So yeah. You don't need it now, you don't need it. I've already forgotten what YAGNI stands for. What is going on with this? I'm not losing. Okay, that song is not behaving. Oh, you ain't gonna need it. Yep. See, I should have gotten that. I'm Southern. Alright. Pretzel is being weird. Maybe it'll be okay. I have written too much code. That's a good point. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of... Yep. That makes perfect sense. And we're going to fix this because the core service will not need a logger once we're done with it. Okay, so half the shit we did at the beginning of this stream is no longer of use, at least for the purposes of this stream. But I do feel better about it, so yeah, that makes sense. We should not end up in a situation where we should have to log something here. We will still have in our UI layer setup, we will still have basically a catch-all that will capture any at the very front of the pipeline. It will capture any exceptions that got thrown and not caught and dealt with, and we can log it there as a failsafe, so we will at least have captured the information, even if we do have we missed an edge case in our business logic testing. That will capture it there, and we can do it, but that should not be an expected behavior. We shouldn't expect to have loggable conditions inside business logic. And yeah, whatever controllers exactly will have the loggers. Okay. So I think that is correct. All this should be fine now. Let's run our whole test suite just to be safe. Which actually I should be doing before every change. Run the whole suite. According to the first 2 pages of test-driven development by example. Alright, everything passes. Sweet. Okay. I'm actually going to call it good. It's possible that I could go ahead and create the actual exception with the message and all that stuff, and then compare to make sure that it was the correct exact exception that was passed back and all that stuff. I'm not particularly worried about it in this case. Yeah. Check in the code. Let's do it. Are we online? We are online. Alright, so yeah, let's pass this up. We'll push this up. This, by the way, is all available, and I'm assuming that's what you meant by check in the code, and not like check for something in the code. But here's the GitHub, where you can find this repository among others. And let's check in what we've done today. So far today we added logging, application exception, and what else did we do? We did and new get course ID. What was the name of that? Get course async. Get course async. Method to course service with test. It is what I meant. When you're green and have refactor. Yeah, that's something I definitely need to get used to. I have horrible Git discipline. I will code for days without committing, and that's, I know, bad. I do need to get used to that though. And actually, yeah. So that other guy, Hassan Habib, I think is his name. Yes, Hassan Habib. The way he illustrated it was write the failing test, commit with a message that says test added fails. Implement the subject of the test. Watch it go green. Commit. Test name. Green. I am going to be honest and say I will probably not remember to do that. but it does make for a very descriptive git commit history, so I do need to get better about it, and I will work on getting better. So that commit I just made was way too big. It should not have included all of the changes that I made today. I should have added logging, committed that, added exception, committed that, added test, fixed, blah. Part of the discipline. Yep. So yeah, maybe that'll be my goal for next time, is to do, or one of my goals for next time is to get better about that. And I think I still have an issue with my setup here. I think I have the repository set to use SSH keys instead of HTTPS, and so I'm pretty sure, yeah, it failed. So let me grab the folder. There's probably a better way an easier way to do this as well. Oh god, did I just freeze up? Really? There it goes. Alright. I just need the path. Switch back to solution view, and we will come in here. CD git push. Okay, code is up. I got done what I wanted to get done and learned some lessons along the way, so that was a fun and exciting, well, not fun and exciting. It was fun. I had fun. You probably didn't watching me fumble my way through this shit, but anyway. This is a learning project for me, not for you. This is for me. I'm trying to learn these things that I've missed along the way over the years. I'm trying to bring these things into my repertoire. I'm trying to be a better developer. So if you happen to be in the same boat and you're missing some of those things, I hope you'll benefit from me demonstrating my absolute inadequacy, as well as benefit from having the grumpy game dev here as much as he can be, to actually steer us along the right path. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. I need to get some lunch and go help my wife with something. Apparently her drill is locked up, so we'll go fix that. But anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I will have a write-up of this post at my website, which launched this week, kind of, at fct.dev. And the discussion will be, if you have any discussion, anything you'd like to talk about, I'll have a link over to the dev community website where this post will be copied as well, and we can talk about it all there, because I don't have a chat function on my website. Don't want one. So with that, appreciate y'all being here. Let's see if we can find somebody to raid. Twitch.tv, that's fine. Let's go there. Let's go to following. Who is online? Robotron, which would make no sense here. Of course, Mario Lane's on. Bald bearded builder. Robotron. Or, ooh, crap, I'm listening to myself. CLW. He's a cool guy. That's pretty CLW. Yep, see you, Freon. I'll be over to Mario Lane's channel in a few minutes. Yeah, let's raid CLW. Why not? Let's load him up and /raid CL. Do we have anybody? Yeah, we still got people here. W. CLW. Cool. Nah, appreciate that, man. All right, raiding. Appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate you sticking around for the raid if you're going with us. And I will see you on Friday when we will get back to our Twitch bot and start doing some really cool stuff with that. So thanks again for watching. See y'all next time.